Hearty Soul! Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk. I'm Dr. Nadia a naturopathic doctor here at the Hearty Soul, and the co-host extraordinaire,
Alina, and I'm your editor-in-chief at the Hearty Soul and also a holistic nutritionist. And today we're talking about something quite exciting.
I feel like I always say that, but we always really try to get exciting stuff for you guys. But this is extremely exciting for me because I have a personal story regarding this topic.
And I have many doubts surrounding this topic, so it's going to be quite interesting.
Yes, so the topic of the day is low-carb diets.
And are carbs evil? Are they good? Are they bad? We're going to talk all about it. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. So as Nadia and I mentioned, we are talking about low carb today because I feel like it's a question on a lot of people's minds.
Honestly, I get so tired of hearing about low carb, high fat, moderate protein. No, fats are bad. No, carbs are good. Carbs are evil. It's so confusing and it's almost nauseating sometimes.
It is. I actually have a client right now too who is trying to lose weight, and I'm helping her out. She's like, oh my God, am I going to have to deprive myself of all carbs? Are you going to make me stop eating carbs and I only eat protein? So it's a very legitimate concern that people have right now, and they feel like it's the only way to lose weight.
For sure.
But you know what? Let's actually start off before we even talk about low carb diet, and we're going to go into ketosis as well, which is really trendy right now, which is a high fat diet and very, very low
Interestingly
carb diet.
Trendy now, but actually been around the block for a really
while.
long time. And
it has.
Also, I always say this, but just a reminder to you guys, we are absolutely live right now. So that means absolutely live. Unless you're watching this video later, which means we're not live. But you can watch our videos later in the videos tab. Regardless, I'm going to be monitoring the comments. If you guys have anything you want to chime in or say, make a note of, have questions,
or
I'm going to do...
Say hi.
Just say hi.
Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from, what city you're tuning in from. We'd just love to say hi to you.
Yeah. So I will be monitoring the comments as best as possible. But back to our topic at hand, ketosis and low-carb diets.
So to start off with, before we even get into those, let's just actually talk about what carbs are. Are carbs good? Are carbs bad? And here's the answer. There's no demonizing a macronutrient. You can't call protein good or bad. Can't call fat good or bad. Carbs are not good or bad either. So carbs are just another macronutrient that our body needs, and they give us fuel, they give us energy, they give us lots of fiber, which helps us with digestion. But of course, you are probably going to be wondering, well then, Alina, what are bad carbs? Aren't there bad carbs?
And Alina, why do some people not do well on more carbs than others? Why do people, have different responses to different macronutrient profiles? So just to give you guys, when I say macronutrients, we're talking about the big three. Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are your macronutrients. So
and we need all three.
We need all three. You actually, you wouldn't be a happy camper if you just had one. Just doesn't work that way. But what we're talking about today is doing different combinations and ratios of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates.
So one of the first things to actually keep in mind too is that we're all biochemically unique and individual, right?
Like a snowflake.
Like a snowflake. That's exactly what I was going to say. So you're a precious snowflake. And you know what? This is what we're always teaching and educating about on the Hearty Soul as well. There's no one type of diet that suits everyone as well, because everyone has different genetics. Everyone is just completely different.
Emotionally different, metabolic.
Their environments are different too.
Environments are different. You have access to different foods. Genetically, you're going to respond differently. Lots of factors at play, and that's why it's so important to educate yourself and to, the beauty of talking about any diets at all is it really makes you pay attention to your own body's needs, which I think is really important.
Yeah, it definitely is. So Okay, so now that we've covered off what carbs are, now I can actually touch upon too what are bad carbs and
The
good
evil
carbs.
carbs.
Honestly, to put it in the most basic of terms, bad carbs are the ones that you know are just bad, which are processed foods and junk food and just
Like what?
like lots of donuts and ice cream. And
Yeah.
I don't want to demonize again. I don't want to guilt anyone into thinking, oh my God, I should never eat a donut because this is life. I eat donuts, I eat ice cream.
But also,
in
like, this is real
moderation.
talk. You know that stuff's not great for you.
Yeah, exactly,
So
right? Like,
let's get real.
yeah, 5% of the time you have those things, 10% of the time, okay. But as a whole, bad carbs are basically those refined carbohydrates.
And I just want to preface as
Yeah.
well, if we're talking about weight loss as a goal, this is really where you do have to pay attention to these things. I mean, donuts do not equal weight loss. I'm just gonna say it.
Or
Like,
optimal health. In
No.
no diet should you be having so many donuts.
we're really vilifying donuts, but you guys know what we mean.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, so basically, bad carbs, guys, are just those very high sugary items, processed foods, junk foods. It's pretty common knowledge. But outside of that, we don't want to demonize things like grains or legumes or veggies, which are carbs too. And people forget that carbs are also
know.
vegetables and fruits. You don't want to demonize them. But yes, sometimes maybe if you are diabetic or trying to lose weight, maybe you would just want to cut back a bit on things that are higher in sugar, like very starchy fruits and veggies or having too much grain. So we'll get into that a little bit, but that's sort of, I hope that helps you make sense between good and bad carbs.
Yeah, and just shout out Rodney, hello from
Hi,
Portland.
Rodney. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello from Heather from Bronx, New York.
Yeah.
Amazing. Brenda, love you as she loves this.
Thank you.
But also, have you guys done ketosis? Have you guys tried going on a low-carb diet? I'm curious to see if other people had experiences.
Yeah. So we're going to learn all about yours soon. Nadia
You're gonna
has
learn-
gone in ketosis,
yeah.
super low carb. So, okay, now that we've talked about carbs, Nadia, now we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be low carb.
Yes.
How would you define, in terms of, let's say, grams, carbs, like low carb, being low carb, what would that be?
So also,
Yeah.
and it's important that you guys understand the difference between net carbohydrates and full carbohydrate or total carbohydrates. So, for example, when I say really low carb really is 50 grams or less of net carbohydrates. When you guys are looking at, when you're looking at like an ingredient panel.
Yeah, usually a protein bar will have carbs and then fiber right under it, and then sometimes it says net carbs.
Exactly.
So some people actually
Some
do
people
it.
do identify it, but if you're just trying to do a quick measure, you're literally going to take total carbohydrates, and then you're just going to minus or subtract the total number of fiber, because fiber doesn't count towards that net number.
Because it's not spiking your insulin, or sorry, your blood sugar levels,
Yeah,
right? So-
exactly. And that's what's going to give you net carbohydrates. So, for example, if you had total carbohydrates 10 grams, and 3 of those grams were fiber, Alina, what would your total net grams be?
I totally just spaced out on the numbers you just
10 minus 3.
7.
Okay.
7 net carbs.
7. We're educated
On live
professionals.
TV.
We are educated professionals on this show, I swear, guys. But exactly. So if you had 10 total grams of carbohydrate, 3 of them are fiber, your net carbohydrate is going to be 7.
Yeah.
Okay, just to give
You're
you
looking at
guys
net
an
carbs.
idea of how many carbohydrates or net carbohydrates exist in foods.
Yeah.
So an easy one is a slice of bread. So like an average slice of whole wheat toast has about 12 grams of net carbohydrates.
Okay. That's a very good. It's good that you gave an example so that people actually understand.
And like a bagel, so just a regular bagel has about 50 grams of net carbs.
That's quite a lot of carbs.
That's your
intake
day.
for the day.
That's your day.
And now to help you guys understand what the average is for a person. So a regular average American, let's say, eats around 300 grams of carbs a day. Now, when we're talking about ketosis, that's on the other end of the spectrum, which is around 50 grams of carbs in a day. So there's a big difference over there. Keto would be essentially having one bagel as your source of carbs for the day and then nothing else.
Yeah.
No fruits, no starchy veggies, no grain.
So bagels are not allowed on the keto diet.
And now a low-carb diet is something more in the range of 100 to 150 grams of carbs. And now that's still something that really helps people achieve weight loss as well. And it's still a big jump, actually, going from around 300 grams to 150, still halving it. But for most people, I think the average person would probably do better anyway, just going around 200 to 250 grams of carbs. Like, even that is pretty difficult.
For sure.
For most people. Because most
Honestly,
people are at the 300 or more.
300 or more. Most
Yeah.
people don't even, they have no idea what their carbohydrate intake even looks like. And we're going to talk about how you guys can do a super, super simple exercise at home that will actually benefit everyone. I know we said that there is no one diet that fits all.
Yeah.
This one trick fits all.
Okay.
It's good for everyone.
Stay tuned. I'm curious to know which one this is too.
However, there's some really hilarious comments that are coming in that I need to say. So Distractional says, love the show, love you both.
Nice.
Keep at it. Carbs for life.
Carbs. Donuts.
Love it. We also have Kimberly. Kimberly is actually currently on the wheat belly way of eating. Okay, so she's going no gluten, staying away from the wheat belly. Yeah. Also starting a 10-day detox tomorrow. Okay. And reading up on ketosis. So actually, Kimberly, yeah, like if you have more comments or if anything we're saying is not kind of in line with what you've read, love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Jeff, hello Jeff.
Hi Jeff.
Jeff says that he's done the low carb and low cal diet. It was tough and not sustainable. And that's actually a really good point, Jeff, and a criticism that we are going to get into. Now, before we get into that, I kind of want to talk about why, first of all, okay, wait, should we run the streeters now or should we run them later?
We should talk right now about the streeters. Let's run the streeters now. This is the perfect time.
Guys, we went to the streets of Toronto. Well, we didn't actually. Jeff, the executive producer, did. To ask people what the heck they thought ketosis was.
And low-carb dieting. What they thought about it, what they thought about carbs. Are they good? Are they bad? So
I like some of the answers.
Yeah.
So we're going to roll that right now.
Hello, Hearty Soulians. I'm Jeff Rideout, executive producer here at the Hearty Soul. Today, for Real Talk, we're asking people, what is ketosis? Let's go find out.
Ketosis?
Ketosis.
Ketosis. I have no idea what ketosis is. I know the word.
It's when your body starts to use fat for energy instead of sugar. How many carbohydrates do you normally eat in a day?
Quite a few.
I don't eat a lot of junk food, just a little bit, everything in moderation.
I'm pretty dependent on carbohydrates because I'm a vegetarian. So I kind of get really hungry if I'm not eating carbs. I wouldn't say it's the primary source in my diet, but it's definitely one of my favorite things to consume, that's for sure. Do I think a high-fat, low-carb diet is healthy? I'm not sure, to be honest. I think a low-carb, high-fat diet is healthy to a certain extent.
Any diet has to be really reviewed before it's good for that person. I think our metabolisms all work differently.
I think carbs are good in moderation, but bad if you take it too far.
I love my pasta, but I don't eat it every day.
I try not to do any real diets. They may work quickly, but I really don't think they're very lasting.
I think just depending on your body, it works or it doesn't work for you. I think you have to just really feel what your body is trying to tell you. For me, it's not a good idea. I think that if you deprive yourself of anything for too long, you can't sustain it. It's not a sustainable diet.
Welcome back.
And we're back.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
what did you think?
I love how most of them were just like, what is ketosis? Because ketosis is a much more medical term, and actually we're going to get into why the ketosis diet was even created and for what population group. But I liked some of those answers. I liked that they were insightful. I liked that they mentioned that each body is individual.
Exactly, yeah. I like that people gave that consideration and thought to it and realized that we're unique.
Yes.
And it's always an it depends answer. It's never black or white, right?
No, I also liked the vegetarian, and I've worked with many vegetarian clients before, and the classic curse of carbosaurus is what tends to happen to vegetarians when they're not consuming enough protein or fat. Yes. So that was a really interesting answer, but it can be difficult to navigate.
Definitely, and it's definitely hard to do ketosis if you are vegetarian as well, which we're going to talk about.
But not impossible.
Not impossible, but very hard. Well,
Not
you are
impossible.
pescatarian.
I am,
You are
that's true.
pescatarian.
I'm a fake vegetarian.
Okay, so let's actually talk a little bit about ketosis.
Yes, and
So,
Alex, who's
Yeah.
joining us from Australia, I can see you on my feed. Just want to say hi. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry, continue.
okay, no, ketosis. Okay, so we touched upon it briefly, guys, but ketosis is essentially a low-carb diet, a little bit to the extreme. So if low-carb is 100 and 150 grams, ketosis is 50 grams. And like Nadia said, it's maybe one bagel, or I was researching this online, it's around having 10 grapes as well.
Grapes
for
are
your
very
carb allowance.
sweet.
They are very
So-
sweet.
We're vilifying ketosis right now because there's a lot you
Yeah.
can eat. We're highlighting the things you can't eat.
Yeah.
But to
We
put it
will
into
talk-
perspective.
We will talk about the
Vilifying
benefits as well,
ketosis.
just so you know.
Okay.
But what's interesting here, before we actually get into ketosis and a bit of like Nadia's story and the
Nadia's
benefits-
story.
Nadia's story, not mine. And some of the benefits of ketosis too. It's interesting to actually note what the history of this is.
Yeah.
So ketosis is nothing new, guys. The ketogenic diet has been around since around the 1920s, and it was used for patients who were epileptic. So it was used for epilepsy and found that it actually helps, similar to fasting. Now, then it was actually used later on as well in the 1940s when they saw it worked with epileptic patients.
With
They
no
figured-
side effects.
With no side effects, exactly. They figured, okay, let's try this out for people who have maybe some neurological disorders too.
Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, MS, etc. Yeah.
Exactly. Or even people who have some trauma or injury like concussions. And for those people, it has been very helpful. So this is recognized in the medical field as having benefits. This isn't like a fad or some complete quackery. It actually does, it is rooted and grounded in science, and it does work.
Yeah. So now who it works for and who should do it, that's kind of the murky question we're going under right now.
Yeah.
But why does it help people who have seizures? So why would a high-fat diet help
Yeah.
people who have seizures? And this is a
Yeah.
pretty interesting conversation because this really gets into how our bodies use fuel,
Yeah.
right? So we are sugar-driven creatures by nature. We are
Yeah.
driven by carbohydrates and sugars because glucose as a molecule is actually what ends up feeding our Krebs cycle. This is going way back for you
This
guys.
is energy, by the way, guys. Krebs cycle helps produce
Right,
energy,
so
ATP.
every day when you wake up in the morning, even when you're sleeping,
Yeah.
your cells need energy to function.
Yep.
That's just, otherwise you'd be dead.
Yeah.
It's bad. So you need energy to function.
We just needed a moment of silence.
Not good.
So bad.
Not good. So you need energy to function, and your
Yeah.
body needs to get that energy, not just from the love and vibes you get from the people you work with, but also from the foods you eat. So the majority of the time, your body depends on sugars
Yeah.
or
Glucose. Simply glucose.
to create ATP, which is an energy source that ends up feeding your mitochondria and spitting out lovely cellular energy across your body. So with ketosis, what ends up happening is you're actually starving your body of that primary energy source.
And that's when it starts dipping in.
And this is where it
to
gets
your wonderful
interesting.
fat reserves.
Yes.
So I don't know why I went Valley Girl, but essentially in ketosis, what happens is you start dipping into your fatty acids, would then start breaking down. And then a bunch of chemical reactions happen. They're a little bit complex, but essentially ketones are released. And ketones provide that new source of energy for you.
And what's really interesting, and this is kind of where we started seeing the ketone diet, ketosis diet work in an anti-seizure mechanism, is that your brain can use ketones as fuel, and it actually turns out that ketones may be a better source and longer lasting source of fuel for the brain, because your brain takes up a lot of energy.
Yeah.
It eats up like almost 10 to 20% of your total energy, and it is not 10 to 20% of your total body, right?
I'm not sure.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's very close to
Yeah.
what is correct.
Okay.
But your brain can use
Yeah.
ketones as fuel, and so those ketones actually act to understimulate. When nerves talk to each other, they get really excited. So we don't want them to be too excited, because then you're seizuring.
So it calms
Did
it
you see
down.
what I did there?
I did.
I know, I'm not making fun of it, but that's actually what happens.
Yeah.
You can think of actually overexcited nerves create
Okay.
almost a seizure-like activity,
Okay.
and then underexcited nerves are not firing.
Okay. Okay.
So ketones as a fuel source actually have a lowered amount of excitement. So it brings you down from overexcitement into regular excitement, which is good.
That's crazy. That's really, really good.
Yes.
And so the reason the ketogenic diet, I believe, was used too, because so I think it started off with actually fasting. They found that fasting really helps, and we all know that fasting does help with cell repair and rejuvenation and helping with mental clarity as well.
It does,
right? It has a very similar effect, but of course they felt, well, maybe starving epileptic children for 3 days by fasting may not be the best way, maybe a little bit frowned upon. So that's where the ketogenic diet came into play. So think of the ketogenic diet as having very similar principles to things like fasting and intermittent fasting as well. It's sort of some of the same processes there at work. Because when you fast as well, so as a Muslim, I do Ramadan, so where we fast for a month from sunrise to sunset, and you get into, I guess, a bit of a similar feeling as well.
The keto fog or the keto flu is something that can happen.
It starts off that way for the first few days, but then I actually have a lot of mental clarity and a lot of energy along with weight loss for the rest of the month.
Who doesn't want those things?
Yeah, very interesting. So similar to ketosis. Okay, so now we've told you guys what ketosis is.
And on top of anti-seizure effects, it also showed neuroprotective effects. I just want to throw that in there because it also acted almost like a natural antioxidant working in the brain, which is good because oxidative damage is not good.
Not so good.
So that obviously stemmed into other people being interested to be like, whoa, no negative side effects, positive side effects in this population. What if we did it in a non-epileptic person?
Yeah.
What will we see?
So the reason it's caught on a bit now as well is that people see that it helps with things like weight loss, right? It helps with your insulin sensitivity, with your cravings, and especially it is a bit more helpful for some people who may have type 2 diabetes or hypertension. But again, you would want to do these things under medical supervision. Always, especially if you have a chronic condition like that. But the ketogenic diet has been seen to help as like a bit of a kickstart or a boost to help you get back into balanced blood sugar levels and sort of in that state. Yeah. Now I'm sure people are wondering too, well, okay, what can I eat and can I not eat on a ketogenic diet? Because right now I know I've made it seem like it's all about deprivation, but Nadia here has done a ketogenic diet and has been in ketosis multiple times. So please tell me, preach, tell me.
And like literally, I'm gonna say that you guys are gonna think I'm so gross, but like I love fat. I mean, most people do, but like I love fat. The thing with keto is you have never been more satisfied in your life because fat is so satiating that you almost can't eat anymore. I've had dishes that I've made for myself that are keto friendly and I can barely finish the whole meal because I am so satiated. I'm full. And then that carries on for an extended period of time where I'm actually consuming, because the beauty about keto is you're eating a lot of like high calorie foods per se in doses, but you're actually in the entire day eating less because you're more full.
Because you're more, okay, so tell me, now describe for me what your, let's say, what would a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner look like on a ketogenic day or diet? Yeah,
absolutely. So a day for me would be, I would start off with an omelet. I would do like 2-egg omelet, maybe some zucchini and some cheddar cheese and in coconut oil.
Safe to say you're not having whole wheat toast with your omelet?
Oh, no. That is, when I'm saying it, like that's my omelet.
That's
and it's satisfying. It's got some protein. Put the cheese on there.
That doesn't sound the worst. I'll give you that. Doesn't sound the worst.
Thank you.
Continue.
For lunch, now if I was in a rush and I couldn't make that, I would make a bulletproof coffee, which is coffee with butter. I know it sounds so weird and people are like, what's up with that? But it's actually, I loved it. I loved it.
It's pretty nice.
So then for lunch, I would move on, and I was really into what I called them as picnic lunches.
Yeah.
So I would get a bunch of my favorite dips. Like, I feel so gross talking about it, but like I would either make my own homemade spinach and artichoke dip. And I would eat that with fennel, and then I would have, you know, a little piece of brie on the side of that. Or you could have a fresh salad with, I don't eat chicken, but you could have chicken Caesar salad, you know, with no croutons. That's your lunch.
So it's a lot of protein and veggies, but with a side of olive oil, avocado, and a lot of high fat.
A lot of high fats.
Okay.
That's the thing too,
Okay.
is if you're eating actually too much protein, you won't get into ketosis.
Ah,
Yeah. And then
interesting.
for dinner, I
Okay.
would bake myself a delicious, like, ginger salmon
Okay.
with, you know, Brussels sprouts or bok choy on the side. And then for dessert, I would
had
make,
dessert?
oh yeah, I'd have dessert. I would have, you know, a small cup of fresh berries. So
Okay.
blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. And I would either use real whipping cream sweetened with xylitol and organic vanilla, or I would make my own coconut whipped cream to put on top.
This actually sounds
Tell
like a
me how
pretty
delicious that
day.
sounds.
It does, but here's the thing. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here, guys, and frankly, because ketosis is not something that I think I would even want
Hates
to personally
ketosis.
try or want to do.
Yeah.
But here we go into one of the negative or the bad effects of ketosis as
The
well.
counterpoints.
The counterpoints, thank you, English. So one of them I would say is the unsustainability of it. So I understand that, you know, that sounds delicious, but to do that day in and day out and to feel restricted when you have to go to a party or, you know, you want to go to brunch, because yes, I'm a nutritionist, I eat healthy, but when I want to go to a brunch with my friend, I want to have that scone. I'm going to indulge a little bit. I don't want to feel restricted and feel like I can't eat anything here. Or go to a party and find that I can't have any of the finger foods aside from some carrot sticks.
Social
and maybe
eating
bring
is
my
hard.
own.
Yeah.
Social eating is hard.
But not impossible.
yeah.
And what I want to say to that is when I was on keto, I never felt like I was restricting myself because I was so damn satisfied.
Because you were full. So what would you
Because
do
I was
when
so
you went
full.
to parties?
So parties were difficult, A, because alcohol is not great on keto.
What? There's carbs?
I know there's a lot of carbs in
Yeah.
alcohol,
Okay.
but there's ways you can get around it.
Okay.
Anyway,
We'll get into that for another time.
but there's definitely
Yeah.
like, so to be honest, social eating is difficult,
Yeah.
and most of the time I would either make sure I ate beforehand, or I would just stick to the foods that I know I could have.
Okay.
And like at the end of the day, you could still go out. I could go out for sushi. I would just get sashimi
Yeah.
instead of rolls. So
Okay.
there's ways you can do it where you don't need to be a hermit. Is it a
Yeah.
sace? Of course, it's a sacrifice.
it is.
Do I
You
want the
have to
scone?
decide.
Yeah, I want the scone. But I lost 20 pounds. I lost 20 pounds, and it was honestly the easiest weight loss I have ever done. It felt
Okay.
effortless because once I got into ketosis and figured out the meals that worked for me, it was
Okay.
easy.
Okay, but then what about a person who then goes back into regular eating again? I mean, that's a question. Would you have to do ketosis ongoing though? Or could you do it for a month or two and then start eating regularly again? And then is that weight going to come back on as well? Because it may be
Yeah.
hard for people to sustain it for a long time. It may be great for a couple of months too, but then imagine you become pregnant, you're a mom, and then you have kids running around. It may not be sustainable anymore.
That's a really good
Is your
point.
weight going to come back?
Well, I mean, if
Yeah.
you change your diet drastically and then go
Yeah.
right back to what you were eating when you were a weight you didn't want to,
Yeah.
of course, you're going to be the same weight that you were previously.
Okay.
The beauty about keto that I really love, it opened my eyes to how sensitive my body was to carbohydrates. I've been an athlete, I've been a healthy eater,
Yeah.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. Like, I'm pretty good, and I always considered myself a fairly clean eater before
Yeah.
I did this. But that didn't make me aware of actually how many carbohydrates I was eating in a day and how
Yeah.
sensitive my body was to the
And now, what
carbohydrates.
do you mean by sensitivity? I think as well, just for the audience.
For
what
weight,
does that mean?
to me
Okay.
specifically, how my body
Okay.
feels,
Yeah.
and if I like the way my body feels at a certain weight, I know that if I'm having high carbohydrates, my cravings are up, my energy crashes, I don't sleep as well, my skin
Yeah.
isn't good, my
True.
PMS is worse, and I'm not losing the weight I want to, and it's especially like central, like belly fat weight.
So maybe for some people, you guys that are watching, if ketosis doesn't seem like it's for you, but you really seem like you like the benefits of it, maybe just even trying out low carb, because you probably are having around 300 grams of carbs or so right now. Even just tracking for a bit and seeing where you're at and trying to go maybe near the 150 to 100 gram mark may give you the same benefit that Nadia is seeing here about carb sensitivity, because that's true. I'll give you that. When I am lower carb or if I notice I've suddenly had too many carbs, my cravings are insane. I am just a ravenous monster that entire day.
Yeah.
Because I was traveling recently, actually, this happened too, where I didn't pack my snacks, and I usually do. And then you're like, oh, there's
You're
not
so good
much
at
here.
packing your
I'm so
snacks,
good.
too.
Like, I'll have this
girl in
yogurt.
the office, she's always got her snacks.
Munching.
She's so good.
I, of course, had a little bit of the plane
Yeah.
food or just some snacks at the airport, and they were much higher carb than I usually would, a bit more bread-based. And I was just off track for the next day or two, just in terms of like how hungry I was, and I knew that wasn't like me.
Yeah.
So Nadia does have a great point there.
And
Try it out.
That's the beautiful thing, and I mean, you know what? I'll say it now. I'll say it again later. If anything, as a baseline, it is an amazing tool to see how many carbohydrates you guys are eating on a regular basis, so that if you want to see what 100 grams feels like, try it out. You can do it for 2 weeks and see how it feels like with your body. If you notice no change, maybe carbohydrates is not the enemy for you. If you notice a somewhat drastic change, then maybe you should consider going lower and seeing what that feels like.
More of like an indication.
Absolutely.
Like
And the other thing that I really liked, because I don't stay in ketosis forever, right? Like I did it once, pretty hardcore, did that for a long period of time, loved it. Summer came around.
The beers happened.
The things happened, and the social
pineapples.
things happened. And also, I'm like a fairly moderate person in general, so I'm not crazy restrictive for myself. But because I was aware of, like when I look at foods, I can understand the macronutrient profile of a food much better now. I was smarter when I ate. So even when I was off, my eating changed forever. Once I did keto once, and I felt how I felt, I have always changed.
You knew you wanted to sustain that feeling
to an extent, at least, yes. And then it's actually that much easier to want to get back into a low-carb diet again because you're aware and you know the meals you like. You have a better, you're educated, you're trained to look at food differently, you're trained to read your body signs differently.
Okay, I like that. I like that. So I'm gonna ask you another question.
I like that. I like that.
I like
so,
that. More questions for you, Nadia, about ketosis. I mean, these are valid concerns. So, like, I am definitely a bit more of a fan of low carb versus keto for sure, because actually I stumbled upon research as well that was showing that for fat loss or weight loss, actually, the benefits or the differences between the two are not that crazy. So you can sort of achieve very similar weight loss between low fat and ketosis. Now, some of the other negative effects, I suppose, I came across was if you are in ketosis, isn't it hard on someone's gut health in a way as well? Because you're not getting in maybe as much fiber or prebiotics, probiotics as you once would. Or I know for some people, grains are what helps them feel very regular too. Like you have the oatmeal, you go to the bathroom. Sometimes veggies don't do the same thing.
Quick question, Alina.
Yeah.
When we talk about total carbohydrates versus net carbohydrates, do we include fiber or do we minus fiber?
We minus fiber.
Oh!
Fine. Well, what about probiotics and prebiotics?
Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes people's gut health, maybe you just need a probiotic and that's fine.
Yeah.
But the beauty about keto is it actually encourages you to eat so many more vegetables.
That's also true.
Yes.
But less, not the starchy ones though.
Not starchy,
Not
but
starchy
fibrous is great.
Okay.
Go for the fiber. Doesn't
Okay.
count towards your net carbs.
Now, another point. The anti-keto advocate. So what about nutrient deficiencies, I would say then too, because if you're not here, I think this may be a bit more of a valid concern than the fiber too, is, you know, is your diet as well-rounded then? If you're not eating most fruits or just a small handful, you're not having some of those veggies as well.
That's a good question, and I would definitely say
grains.
you can get real lazy with keto because if you are a meat eater and you're just focusing on cheese and bacon and steak, you know, that's not a healthy way to do ketosis. But you can definitely, it takes additional planning.
Okay.
You need to be smart about it. It can be avoided, but for sure a valid concern because people who are a little bit dipping into the lazy keto aspect of things may lean to less veggies, just more meat and fat.
Yeah. So you would just have to be more mindful,
Yeah.
I suppose. It's kind of like when someone decides that they want to go vegan as well, and they don't include too many plants in their diet.
Yeah.
I've seen this with a lot of vegan clients too. They'll suddenly just not know what to eat anymore to fill them up and have a lot of pasta or just grain and
Carbosaurus.
oats. Yeah, exactly. Carbosaurus.
You don't want to be a carbosaurus.
No, so I guess it's just about being more mindful with ketosis as well.
Absolutely.
You really have to. So I guess it is my personal opinion then too. My personal opinion with ketosis. Nothing too against it, but I would just say for most people starting out, the majority of the population who's maybe trying to lose weight too, there are much easier steps to take and healthier habits to form to
100%.
start with and never go from here to the extreme.
100%.
But if you are
It's not
already...
for everybody.
It's not for everybody. You have to think about your life as a whole, right? You have to think about, am I a mom with kids? Do I have a busy work life? Do I have parties to attend every week? Is this going to make me miserable? Then it's not worth disturbing your peace. But if you feel like this fits in with your lifestyle, you're pretty disciplined, regimented, you could probably do this. You don't have to run around after 3 toddlers or something at home. Then yeah, maybe you want to try it out and you feel like you need a bit of a kickstart with your weight loss and you've gone a little low
If
carb
you need
maybe
the
too.
fear of God to know if you eat too many carbohydrates, you've sabotaged your entire workload and you've actually just eaten a bunch of fat and it's not going to make you lose weight, it's just going to make you larger, this is for you.
Okay.
That fear actually helped
Yeah.
motivate me.
Really?
It made me take a look because if you are going to
Interesting.
do this and you're not going to track appropriately,
Yeah.
then you're just going to be really spiking your fat intake
Yeah.
and not balancing that out
So you have
appropriately.
to track.
You need to track and
Okay,
you need to be
okay.
mindful.
Now, are there any tools that helped you to track?
Yes.
Okay.
I hate the name of this app because I think it's shameful.
I know which one you're going to tell me because you told me about it before.
But I use Fat Secret,
I knew it.
which is similar
Yeah.
to MyFitnessPal. It's a meal logging and tracking app, but what I like about it is it does a better breakdown of net carbohydrates
Okay.
and allows you to put your goals as far as your,
Okay.
so I really liked that. And also,
Okay.
I mean, again, a huge part of this is, okay, A, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
B, if you're interested in it, just start with tracking.
Yeah.
Don't change anything.
That's true.
Download an app and track your macronutrients, so that's your fats, your
Yep.
proteins, and your carbohydrates in something like Fat Tracker, Fat Secret,
Fat Secret. Yeah.
Fat Secret, and see, just look at the results.
Because it's very telling.
Eye-opening.
It's so interesting. When I first started tracking too, very recently, actually not recently, I think a year ago when we met, you encouraged me, track and see what you're eating. And I was overeating carbs as well. And I did not realize because I was just like, oh, it's oatmeal, it's fruits.
Right.
And it was a little bit more. And when I did cut back, I did find that I was way more satiated otherwise, and I had to up my protein as well. It's very eye-opening. And this is a nutritionist here speaking. Someone who eats well, eats healthy, and feels in control. Still, if I'm not tracking, I can still have surprises thrown my way. So imagine for the general population
Well,
too,
this is the thing: is a lot of healthy
Yeah.
snacks come in the form of oat bars or even like healthier desserts end up having a lot of natural sugars.
Still maple syrup.
There's still maple
sugar.
syrup, and those are things to be
Yeah.
mindful of. Just
Yeah.
because it's labeled gluten-free or dairy-free
Organic or natural.
doesn't mean that that's
Yeah.
an item of food that you should be overeating or that is
Definitely.
like really good for you. It might be a
Yeah.
better alternative to what else is out there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy by definition.
Exactly. So one of the last things I actually want to touch upon as well, because I know a lot of people are curious, you see this in the health food store, what about ketone supplementation? Because a lot of people think you can do a bit of a shortcut too and get the benefits of ketosis without going into ketosis and just eating ketones.
Yeah, it's
in
just not a
supplement
thing.
form.
It's just not a thing.
So what she means by it's not a thing is there's been research done. And essentially so far it's just been done in rats and showed some results, but not really in humans. It's not effective.
You'd literally have to eat almost 4 times your body weight in raspberry ketones, and at that time you're probably blowing your organs apart, and the results would be nothing. So just don't do it.
Don't blow your organs apart, guys. Just eat one less
Also,
slice of
I have a
bread.
great comment
Yeah.
here by Tina.
Okay,
Hi, Tina, and thank you for tuning in. Love your comment. She says, sorry, I have never understood the keto or Atkins thing. Preaching this
Yeah.
kind of is scary.
Yeah.
A lot of these keto diets state lots of animal products and a half of veggies. Would rather see whole food, plant-based diet.
Okay.
And I love that because that goes back to no size fits all.
Yeah.
This is by no means for everyone, but I'd like to defend the keto diet that it can be extremely healthy if done well. And
Eating animal-sourced foods so first of all, I guess I would say that if you're vegetarian or vegan, this is probably going to be very hard to do.
can be difficult. You have to do your research.
Yeah.
It is difficult, and you do need to be pretty regimented about it. So it is not for everybody, I wouldn't say. However, the results and payoffs can be amazing for people who do it.
Exactly. And to your point earlier, no one size fits all, right, with a diet. So some people can thrive on the vegan diet, but I've had clients or people coming into a health food store before who do not thrive on a vegan diet, and they need a little bit of meat in their diet to feel healthy and thrive. And there's so many people who feel fantastic on the paleo diet or have reversed their autoimmune condition by going on an autoimmune paleo diet too. So again, no one size fits all, but we will say if you are doing keto and eating animal-based products, you still want to make sure they're coming from a good source. It all comes down to the quality of your ingredients. You want to be eating the wild-caught fish, the grass-fed beef, the organic chicken. So those things don't change.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a great comment, and
it definitely is.
I also don't want you guys to think that we're just pushing this down your throat, because this is really, and this is the point of the whole segment, to talk about the ideas surrounding different things. Let you guys be the judge of what's best for you, along with your healthcare provider and working with a trained and licensed healthcare provider.
Nadia's disclaimer voice.
That's the disclaimer of the day, because this isn't for everybody, especially, and I want to put this as a disclaimer as well, if you have a past history with any sort of disordered eating, being very strict, meal tracking and food logging, sometimes cannot be good for you. So you want to, figure out your goals, work with someone who's going to help you.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the moral of the story, guys.
That's the moral of the story,
for everybody,
folks.
but you can make an informed, educated decision. If you are of normal, excellent health, still research it, incorporate other habits first, maybe track your macros, see where that gets you. Maybe
that's
try
the
out
one thing I
ketosis.
ask from you guys. If you are really interested, okay, again, besides if you do not have the previous underlying condition that I was mentioning, do a little test.
Yeah.
The next 2 weeks, don't change anything. And it's so tricky because as soon as you start tracking your food, you change
changing it,
because you become more aware of it. But try your best not to change anything that you would normally eat and track your food for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
It's
it.
a great goal. Very
Just
easy.
track your food. Change nothing. Just track your food. And I'd love to see what you guys come up with and how surprised you are at how many carbohydrates to fats to proteins you're
and
actually
tell us
eating.
your results, actually. That would be amazing. community@theheartysoul.com.
Yeah.
Definitely email us there. Tell us your story. See if you had any changes. We'd be happy to see your macros too, and it'd be great. Yeah. Please feel free. Or do we have any more comments?
We do.
before we sign
Afi
off?
is actually asking, is exercise required when you do ketosis? It is. The way you exercise actually changes because you do need to be careful, especially if you're exercising heavily. We won't go into that right now. You can exercise, of course, but you just need to be a little bit more careful about your percentage of macros when you're doing higher activity.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in
Thank
today.
you.
If you liked what you saw today, please give us a little love or a like or even a share.
Tell your friends.
Tell all your friends. If you've done the keto diet before and you have feedback, please let us know. We'll be
was
here
awesome.
again next week.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. We'll
Thanks
see you
for tuning
next
in.
time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, YouTube! Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode.
And if you liked what you watched, please be sure to subscribe to our channel.
Yes, and if you had any questions or comments, you can just hit us up below. You can also give us a like. And if you missed last week's episode, you can see that right over here.
And if you do want to see more of our previous episodes, you can catch them all over here. And also, be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. for our other show, Real Food Live. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.